Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I'm really excited to have you here today for this session with Jan, looking at innovation design sprints. Really looking forward to what Jan has to say. So look, a couple of things before we start and introduce our amazing guest speaker today. Firstly, if mine or our speaker's internet drops out for whatever reason, stick around. We'll get them back as soon as we can, and hopefully that won't happen. It very rarely does, but I like to just warn you to stick around if that were to be the case. I'm going to stick all your microphones on mute just to count any background noise so we can focus on the content today. And there'll be time for a Q&A at the end. So if you've got any questions, any notes as you go, jot them down. We'll have an open Q&A at the end, and you can come to the stage, unmute yourself, ask those questions, or you can drop them in the chat, and we'll have a Q&A from there with Jan and sort of really pick his brains while we've got him. And also, just it would be great if as many of you as possible could have your videos on. It makes it a slightly more real experience for everyone to see that there's real humans here, and it's not just sort of AI chatbots and otter AIs recording all of the content. It's so great to see that there's some real humans here. Awesome, that's much better. Great to see you all. So look, let's jump straight into it. Quick introduction to Robot Mascot. So as many of you know, you probably know me. You might have been on one of my sessions before. But I'm James Church. I'm the author of the best-selling book, Investable Entrepreneur. You can get a free copy of this over at the Robot Mascot website if you would like to, and you haven't already. So head over there. And I'm the co-founder along with Nick, who's on this call, who's the founder of Robot Mascot. We're an investment readiness agency. So we basically specialize in helping founders convince investors, and we work exclusively with those pre-seed, seed, and Series A funding rounds. Personally, supported more than 3,000 founders to date, worked with founders from all over the world to raise capital. We've worked with clients in the UK, Europe, Middle East, Asia, Africa, Australia, literally all over the world. And when they work with us, they become 40 times more likely to raise in all the investment that they're looking for. And collectively, our clients have raised more than 220 million to date. This has led us to winning global awards for our approach, Disruptor Company of the Year, Business Advisory of the Year, and many more besides. Now, what we really want to see at Robot Mascot, the reason that we put on events like this is because we want to see great ideas and innovations flourish. Now, we personally get so frustrated at seeing these incredible ideas fail because of poor communication and unable to convince investors to back their business. But ultimately, we just want these incredible ideas, these incredible startups to fly. And that's why we put on events like this, so we can bring you expertise like Jan to come and talk to you about other aspects of building a successful business that's not covered by us at Robot Mascot. So no, if you are thinking of raising investment in the next 6 to 12 months, it would be amazing to see you on one of my strategy sessions. I do a 90-minute session on how we apply all the strategies that have led to the results that I just shared. I run one every week, and I'm going to put a link to the chat in the chat to book us onto one of those sessions. It's completely free, and it'd be great to see you there if it is something that you're thinking of doing for your business. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my business partner Nick to introduce our speaker Jan this afternoon.
Hey, thanks for that, James. Yeah, just a few words from me before we start. I just wanted to say that we're really fortunate, as James pointed out there, that at Robot Mascot, we get to work with so many inspiring founders that are taking leaps into the unknown. They're often doing something that hasn't been done before. And as we know, taking those leaps, it can be pretty daunting and a bit scary and sometimes pretty lonely too. And that's why we like to bring you these sessions. We like to support you on your journey and to give you access to great people like Jan and people like Jan that can sort of help you along the way with guidance, with inspiration, and as well with their real life experiences. So I was really pleased when Jan agreed to join us on this session today. He's got loads of stuff to share with you. So what I would urge you to do is get as much as you possibly can out of Jan's head. He's there. He's there for us to question and talk to and gather that information that we need. So yeah, please do ask plenty of questions at the end. And now I'd like to hand you over to Jan Hauser the co-founder of Applifting.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks, James. Thank you both, and thanks, Robert Mascot, for this opportunity to share the design sprint practice, what we do in Uplifting. It's a great pleasure for Uplifting to join this webinar together with Robert Mascot. So let me share my screen. I've prepared a couple of slides for you guys, and let me know whether it works. Just thumbs up is all right. Do you see my screen right now? All good? Yeah, awesome. So what we're gonna speak about today is a design sprint technique and how we use it in Uplifting, and what are some pros and cons of design sprint. And you can it's got several different angles. It's a tool or technique that you can use yourself together with your. It's a tool or technique that you can use with external partners. There are many ways how to leverage design sprint and how to use it for your new fresh ideas or already running digital products that you might have. Let's say the quote or the main idea for design sprint is to answer the question how to get impression or reaction from real users in just 5 days for your product, I mean, in just 5 days. So let me start very quickly. I'm cautious of time we have, and I want to leave as much time as possible for the Q&A afterwards as well. So I'll spend probably like 25, 30 minutes talking with my monologue and sharing with you. And after that, happy to answer any questions. So yeah, I want to encourage you to share your questions with us, and we will get to that later. So a bit about myself. My name is Jan Hauser. I'm a co-founder of a company called Applifting. I'm CEO of Applifting UK. We are a software development studio with HQ in Prague, Czech Republic, and I opened the UK branch of the company 4 years back. My background is technical, so I'm a techie person. My degree is in robotics, control engineering, but I've got experience of more than 10 years in software development, solution architecture, technical sales. But now it's more a business side of thing. After I moved to London, I'm growing the business in the UK on the island. My hobbies, bit about that. I'm a sport guy. I love karate. I love traveling as well around the world because I think it's eye-opening for everyone to see other cultures. And I like leadership, and I like thought leadership. Just a few sentences about Uplifting. We are a 10 years old company, more than 160 people right now, mostly engineers. The markets we operate on is CE, UK. We've got customers in DACH region, Scandinavia as well, North America. So we are really a global software development partner. More than 300 apps created so far, and we've got lots of satisfied clients. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So how we get the satisfied client when we work with someone. And that's the technique of design sprint. Few brands, since we are talking about UK, I think the most known brand here would be FactSet, financial data company. But we work with banks, with energy companies as well, startups, tiny ones, really early stage or scale-up companies as well. But now to the agenda. So design sprint. I'm gonna walk you through what it is, how you can use it. So design sprint in a nutshell. I'm gonna speak about the main benefits for founders, the main benefits for tech team, and the main benefits for the end users of your potential project or running project that you currently have. And I'm going to share some practical examples as well, some case studies, what did work, what didn't work, and also some, let's say, pitfalls that we met during doing those design sprints. And I'm going to be very super honest during my talks as well. So in Uplifting, we started to do design sprints 2 years back. So I'm going to start with a story. What was before we started doing design sprints? So life before it. So how a typical digital product, a project looks like, and what we did before, what happened to us, and why we decided to change it. So this is a story. So usually it starts with some, let's say, inbound or some active sales. We receive a request. I want to build app XYZ, or I want to make solution XYZ, and a customer is ready at the beginning of the conversation. So we start with some sort of, okay, everything is all right. We've got budget to spend and we've got project to do, and let's do the job, right? So we start with something like a project kickoff at the beginning. Everyone is super excited. Everything seems to be fantastic, but we see some pitfalls right from beginning. Then this is talking from experience. Our backlog is half prepared. We've got no designs for the app as well, and we are quite unsure about the roadmap. There are no milestones set, and there are basically many unknowns. But we are professionals, so we will just move ahead, and we can do what we do because we do it for so many years, right? So we are not scared of anything, and we just jump straight into the project and we start the job. And then it will get to the first sprint of development, because we usually do agile development. So we've got some 2 week sprints, and we just start moving front. And you can see that if not everything is prepared at the beginning, there might be some, hiccups already during the first sprint. So team is blocked, and there are more and more clarifications needed, and we need to spend more time about fine-tuning and everything, and making sure that everyone understands everything. Or even the first user stories that we defined are misunderstood, and the delivery team is doing something, but then in founder's head is happening something else, and there is some sort of misalignment. But we are professionals, so we move forward, right? And then there is some sort of MVP that's approaching very fast, and we need to deliver. So we do everything we can to deliver. The team is going full speed. But the designs of the app has changed a couple of times already. There are tons of redos. So we spent time on redoing something that if we could define it before more precisely, we wouldn't spend that time, extra time. But we somehow manage it, and we finalize the MVP, and we launch it. And now it's a super important point. We start getting customers into the product. So we go live, right? We launch the app, and what happens afterwards is users start to go through the app, and we don't receive the feedback that we expected, right? Because we did a launch, we did a great work, right? We launched the app, and now everyone is sort of lost. Users get what they wanted, but it's not exactly what they expected at the beginning. So the team, the development team, the founding team is demotivated, and there is a lot of energy that was wasted. So, and everyone is sort of, and I'll talk from the experience of software development partner. So everyone is finger pointing and saying, it's your fault, you didn't do this, you should have done that. And it's not a nice experience. And frankly, we've been through this at the beginning of the company quite a few times, and it's not a nice experience. And it also, you lose the trust with the client, and that's something you don't want to do. So what if I tell you that none of that had to happen before, and there is a solution for this thing? I'm not saying it's a silver bullet solution or it's gonna solve all your problems, but it's gonna mitigate a lot of them. So here's a design sprint. And this is one of the reasons why we started doing this technique or this process. And that was just to mitigate all the failures that we did before, and also to make sure that we ask all the necessary questions before we even start the project, right? So the design sprint, and I'm going to walk you through what it is, what's the technique, and you might have heard about it. It's not something we invented. It's been, I think the first time you could have heard about it is from Google Ventures, and they got a book about design sprint as well. But what we did in Applifting, we took the technique or the idea of design sprint or the methodology, and we sort of shifted it for our use case and our company culture as well. And we use it in sort of different way, but still very similar to the original technique. So what it is, design sprint for us is a 5 days exercise. We spend 5 days with something that you would normally spend a couple of months with. And the main goal is to identify the biggest challenges with a digital product. It can be a new product, or it can be next milestone of already running product. And we identify those challenges, and we say, okay, the biggest risk of your product lies in this piece of the customer journey. And we're going to focus on that fully during those 5 days. And we're going to mitigate that risk as much as possible. So what is actually done is usually there is something visual connected with design sprint. So prototype is created, and there is some validation with end user. So I'm going to walk you day by day of what's happening during design sprint. But please keep in mind the main idea, which is the idea validation or risk mitigation of your product and testing with real users. Because during those 5 days, we're going to get feedback from the real users, and that's the most valuable thing that you should focus on. So some main principles of design sprints. I'm going to start with the Pareto rule 80-20. So nothing has to be super precise and, like shining during those 5 days. We need to make compromises, and we need to make decisions very quickly. So usually we define one person, which is a decision maker, and that person needs to, when we get stuck, we just go to that person, and that person needs to make a decision. And we need to move really fast because we've got just 5 days, right? And it's a lot of individual work, but we join it together and we work towards a goal during the day 5. Who is needed for the design sprint? Usually it's around 7 to 8 people. We did it also with 6 people, but we did it also with 10 people. But as you can imagine, the more people, the more challenges, and it's sometimes tricky to facilitate all the big egos in a room. So you need to really decide who's necessary for the design sprint and who's not. Because some people can be part of design sprint, but they don't have to be there for full 5 days. So some people can be made like experts. So you invite them for 30 minutes interviews, which is happening during the design sprints, and you just extract all the necessary information from them. And it can be members of the team, it can be board members of your startup, or it can be let's say an industry expert or someone who can add a value to your product. Decision maker I already mentioned, and there is one aspect that's super necessary, and that's everyone needs to book their calendar for 5 days. I know it sounds silly, but it's super important. No meetings, nothing else, and just really book your calendar for 5 days and be available, be in the room, and really focus on the design sprint. So as I said, it's 5 days experience, and there is something happening on each day. I'm gonna walk through those days and share what's the focus for each day. This image is actually from Google Ventures directly, I think. But we changed it a bit. So there is something happening on Monday, Tuesday till Friday, right? So on Monday, we really focus on some customer journey mapping. I'm going to go more into detail what it actually means. On Tuesday, we do some sketching. No one likes sketching, especially drawing on a white paper, right? Because sometimes you might feel, okay, I'm not an artist, so I can't do sketching really. But believe me and trust me, like it's a super experience and exercise as well. There is some decision making during like inside the team, decisions that needs to be made, and some voting. And also biggest part of the design sprint is some sort of prototyping, create prototype. Like I'm talking about front-end UX UI design. So part of the team are always UX designers, someone who can really create a real looking prototype. We use a tool called Figma. You probably heard about it before. So this is something what's happening during Wednesday to Thursday. And also there's content creation. And the last day, the most important one, is about UX testing. So you get into the room 5 to 7 testers, and you do usability testing with those, and you test everything that you build during the week with those real users, and you get very valuable feedback, because that loop with end users is super important, not just at the beginning of your project, but also during the whole life cycle of your project. And also we use a tool called, I mentioned Figma, and they have, you might have heard about Mirrorboard, or we use FigJam for this. It's part of the Figma environment as well. And each day has some content that you create, and everything is tracked, everything is saved somewhere. So we have some sort of dashboard like this, and we log all the details. So not everything needs to be used during the design sprint, but you can also leverage it after the design sprint, during like creating backlog, or during fine-tuning the customer journey of your product. And you can see that each day has its own column here on the board, and you can zoom it, you can write down the notes, you can write down everything and save it and use it later. So let's go day by day. What's happening on Monday? So the most important thing at the beginning of each meeting, each process, is to set up a goal. So you start with, okay, I've got a project. I want to build this app. It's going to be called XYZ. And this is my goal in 6 to 12 months. Usually that's a good time frame. I want to get to somewhere. If you talk about like more longer time frame, it's more challenging to get some tangible output of the design sprint. And then you select, okay, in my app, there are some challenges, there are some massive risks, and you select 4 of them, max 4 of them, and you want to mitigate those. You also do, on Monday, you do the expert interviews that I mentioned before. So you select the experts. It might be the industry experts, or it might be someone like a member of your team. And the team, which is sitting in the room, is writing notes in a format of like, how might we resolve something? So we call it like HMW notes, and you save those notes for later. And the last exercise on Monday is called like map and cocktail. So you start to map the user journey in your mobile web app, or whatever kind of app you plan to build, or digital product. And you just create the customer journey map, and you sort of match make it together with your how might we cards on the customer journey, and you vote where you see the biggest challenges in the customer journey. And those are going to be the challenges that we are going to tackle and solve during the design sprint. Let's go to Tuesday. So on Tuesday, I mentioned before, there is some sketching and storyboard exercise. So as I said, like no one really likes like drawing on white paper, but it's sort of necessary here to, and everyone can really get it. It's super simple, and it doesn't really matter how nice the sketching you're gonna build is. So how we are not gonna put it in gallery somewhere. It's more for us. So we just, everyone does the sketching, and we put it somewhere on board, and without special explanation, we then vote which part of the app or which part of the solution fits best with which of the sketches that we just draw. So again, some sort of heat map where we see the biggest problems, and some sort of heat map, what is the best sketches. And we can also do some speed critique for the other people's sketches, just to, you know, like a constructive critique in a way, what does work and what does not work. And also what's super important here is some sort of inspiration from competition, and inspiration from some famous apps. So you can, for example, say, okay, I love Netflix app. I love how they do the search of the movies. So can we use this feature in our app as well? Or I love this, how they show credit card in Revolut app, for example. I wanna use that tool as well. So some sort of inspiration is also essential here. And using those sketches and using the customer journey, using the inspiration as well, you just connect the dots all together and you create a storyboard. So what is a storyboard? It's a on the last day, you're gonna do the usability testing with real users. So you're gonna tell them a story, and you need to show them or like put them into an environment that they're gonna give you feedback on the challenges that you defined, right? So there is some sort of role playing really necessary as well. And the role playing in a way that you just put the story in front of the user you tested with, and you say, now imagine you are in situation X, Y, Z, and you need to resolve this problem. So, and then you present the clickable prototype in Figma to those users, and you can start the usability testing. But the story is super important. Getting to Wednesday and Thursday, as I mentioned before, a big portion of work for those 2 days is on UX designers. So we need really to create the clickable prototype in Figma. It takes a lot of time. And the question that usually I'm getting for those 2 days is what's happening with the rest of the team, right? What the rest of the team is doing. The designers are designing the prototype, but what about the rest? And my answer usually is it's content. So you need really high fidelity content for your prototype, because your users, potential users you're going to test it with, need to believe that they are in a real environment and they are actually using your app, even though it's just a clickable prototype. So you just split the whole group into separate groups and you work in teams, you create content, you create designs, you create the interview script for the testing as well. And there are also people that run around and connect everything together, sync the team, and also do the final touch for every piece of work that we're doing. And also on Wednesday, more likely on Thursday, due to the time limitations, you do some dry run with someone. So you just go into your team and you say, hey, can I do the dry run with you? We just need to make sure everything is working. So you do 1 or 2 dry runs just to make sure that all is in place and all is ready for Friday, which is the most important day. Getting to Friday, so you start doing the interviews and usability testings. So it's in a form of one-on-one interview. It's in a separate room, but all the team is watching and observing how the people behave and how the people sort of work with the prototype and how they answer some of the questions you lay, right? So it's one-on-one in one room, and there is streaming and recording for the rest of the team. And the rest of the team is making notes. So there are 3 types of notes. There are positives, neutrals, and negatives, just from the observations that you do. So you watch the person play around with your prototype, and you make notes, and you do it sort of step by step for each part of the prototype or each part of the app. And I think I shared before this board. So if you have a look on day 5, there are traffic lights, green, yellow, and also red ones. So green ones, and you can see even from this, as I said, from helicopter, you can see whether the usability testing was positive or negative just based on the colors. But every single sticker there got the notes and everything. So if there is some more red stuff on the board, you can say, okay, we were probably not that successful, but if it's more green, it's more positive, obviously. So back to this slide. So you can already make some decisions based on the feedback from the people on the day 5. Also, and trust me, the most successful design sprints that we did were where we said, okay, this is probably not the right direction. And we were super happy because we spent just 5 days with that and not more. And we knew that we need to move in a different direction, right? But if the design sprint is successful, there are usually some next steps. You collect the feedback, so you need to incorporate that feedback into your clickable prototype. Sometimes there is some backlog preparation based on all the materials that we get during the design sprint. And there is also some kickoff planning. So you need to prepare all the team, your team or external team, for development. making sure that everything is gonna work well and you're gonna move fast. About the benefits, there are benefits for, I'm gonna take it from a client and vendor perspective because that's my experience. But you can also have a look from a founder and your internal development team experience, right? So benefits for the clients is you spend just 5 days with something that you would normally spend more than a month. You've got a very good basis and many ideas for your project. And you have saved money and time to market because you already saw where are the risks and you already know how to mitigate them. For the team, you've got a good vision, alignment. You already know what you didn't know before. So there might be open questions. Not everything is answered during 5 days, but you know where to focus and what needs to be answered. And also, if the idea is verified with the clients or with the potential users, you know that you are developing something that makes sense. And some other effects that we sort of discovered during the time when we did design sprints, you get to know your team much better. If it's an external team and you collaborate for the first time, you get the chemistry and you sort of understand each other much better. You build a trust and relationship with client and also the ownership, because especially when you have like external team to build the ownership for your own product, it can be quite challenging. So I call it like, it's my baby, you know, if founders usually have it very easily, but to have it for the dev team, it might be tricky. So this way, you just make sure that the ownership is there. And some numbers. So you set up the goals. So there are one or couple of goals to be verified, but you already did it. There are some biggest risks that you identified. There are many ideas that you are not going to use just for the design sprint, but also later. You already have a prototype or part of the prototype built. You've got feedback from the users during the usability testing, and also you generated so much content that can be used for your planning and backlog creation for the tech development later on as well. And as I mentioned, what is the biggest benefit of design sprint? When you run in the wrong direction, you can figure out, okay, I need to change the direction, right? I need to go somewhere else. I need to shift the value proposition, and I need to have a look from a different perspective. When to use design sprint? Can it be done remotely? Absolutely, we've done it remotely as well, especially during COVID times. So everyone was sort of closed at home, so we had to perform as well. So we did it remotely. It's got its pitfalls, but usually it's much better in person. You can use it at the start of the project. You can use it when you have some big next milestone with your project as well. You want to add big feature. It's a useful tool for that as well. And also I had a bunch of exercise for each day. So each one of them can be used separately as well. This is called pricing and strategy, but I'm not going to be selling here or anything. I just wanted to show you how we use it. And you can, if you have your different partner, it's more, you can sort of challenge them with the similar mindset. So one of the stuff we do design sprints for free because it's part of our de-risking strategy with clients. But we do it only if the project is then done by us as well. So there is some cost related, but the cost is just the time of the people in a room. It's nothing extra. But we love it because we get the relationship and we can de-risk the project as well. I'm cautious of time. I've got some case studies and some pitfalls that we did, but I will do it super quickly so we've got enough time for Q&A. So case studies, what's most interesting here? We did educational portal for teachers. We had a lot of people in the room, more than 10. It was a big challenge for the facilitator inside the team for design sprint. and we had to do a massive expectation management because those were C-level people. They had massive expectations, so we had to say very strictly, this is design sprint and this is not design sprint. So this is what you're gonna get and this is not. So that's super important to make sure that everyone understands it. And also the focus is a challenge there because there are so many ideas. So the alignment within the team is super important. We did some testing with children, and trust me, it was super fun because those little ones are super honest. And sometimes adults don't have that level of honesty when doing usability testing. But those children, they will tell you basically everything from scratch, and they react to stuff, and it's super useful. We also did design sprint with some more complicated tech tools, some AI avatars and other stuff, and having a more techie or AI engineer part of the design sprint team works from our perspective as well. For the remote design sprint, there are some specifics. Energy is a massive challenge. To spend 8 hours in front of a computer just sitting and being really focused, it's a challenge. So you need to make breaks. You need to have some space where to upload pictures and other stuff. And also some pitfalls, or we call this like fuck ups usually. Sorry for the language, but I hope you don't mind. So there were some really not successful parts where we had really too many people in design sprint or too few UX designers. 2 is really a minimum. Otherwise, it's not really achievable. Once a cleaning lady came between the day 3 and 4, and they just throw away all the drawings, all the sketches that we did, and we were chasing it in the trash bin. So please, if you are using an office like that, put on your door something and say, please don't clean the room, because it can be a messy thing afterwards. Yeah, many others. Too many changes. The decisions were not. It was not clear who is the decision maker and stuff like that. And this is the last sort of, if you take one thing from this speech of mine, it's what is the biggest benefit of design sprint? And usually we ask this question, but I'm gonna tell you straight away because of time. It's you are able to validate your product in just 5 days and get feedback from the users. So you know whether you are going in a good or bad direction just after 5 days. And it's super valuable. And I think that's everything from me. And we can jump into the questions. I know that we have just 5 minutes of time right now, but I don't know how you guys manage it now. So I'm gonna give the word back to James probably, and we're gonna do the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Jan. That was fascinating. I think really useful to see how these sprints work in practice. So thank you for sharing that with everyone. We do have a question to kick us off in the chat. If anyone has a question, either put it in the chat or raise your virtual hand. There should be if you do the reaction button, you should be able to raise your hand so that I can see that you have a question. I can invite you to unmute yourself and ask it. But for now, we have Sten in the chat who says how, and obviously understanding that you're very much focused on tech, but how might you adapt that design sprint for doing kind of mechanical or kind of hardware type businesses? Do you have any thoughts on that, Jan?
So yeah, we did a couple of those for hardware or more like manufacturing or mechanical projects as well. So usually there is an aspect of some front end part of the solution or some sort of dashboard. It can be the focus. It's again software part, but it's really connected to the hardware thing. But then you should probably explore some tools how to demonstrate the feature or functionality of the hardware device like most easily with something software, or like record a video, for example, and get the impression of the users, and using tools like this, and it can be part of the usability testing as well. But if you already have some some hardware prototype, doing the usability testing in person can be useful as well. So, really put it in front of the people and get the impression. It's a tool that can be done for those stuff as well.
Fantastic. Awesome. I guess it's all about just kind of making quick decisions and figuring things out with the lowest cost base possible, I'm guessing.
Exactly.
So Sten says he used a Lego model. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome idea as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard a few other people do that because there's that version of Lego that's sort of quite mechanical, isn't it? You can get kind of cogs and motors, and you can build all sorts of things with Lego now.
Yeah, there's the Lego Mindstorms. It's called. We actually use it at the uni quite a lot. Because I was studying robotics and we were, building those small models as well. Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So if anyone else has got a question, get it in the chat or raise those hands. I think I've got one. Apologies if you did cover this, but at the beginning you talked about how you sort of bring this team together, and it could be 5 people, it could be 10 people, but you bring this team together, maybe invite some experts in to interview. So let's imagine we're a sole founder or a co-founding team here, looking to sort of do a design sprint. Maybe it's over a week, maybe it's 1 day a week for the next 5 weeks. But how would you go about, who would you invite into that group? Should it be potential users? Should it be sort of users and customers? Should it be kind of industry experts? Who do you bring in around you for that sprint?
From how we do it, usually I mentioned the UX designers or the user interface guys. It's a big portion. It's 2 guys from the group of 7. There is one important person. It's called a facilitator. So that's someone who sticks with the plan and is moving the group forward. There is a product person usually as well. So product owner or someone who knows best about the product that you aim to build. And there can be founding teams. So the group of founders, 1 or 2 founders. And then, as I mentioned, there is a very thin line between who's going to be expert and who's going to be part of the team, right? But as I said, the more big egos you get into the room, the more challenging it can be to get into conclusion afterwards. So from the roles, it's a designer, product owner or product person, facilitator. It can be someone technical if the technical person is needed, and then the founding team from a client side as well.
Cool, awesome. Okay, so we've got one here from Rachel. Are there any industry sectors or types of product that wouldn't be suitable for a design sprint?
Oh, it's a tough one.
Yeah, lots of sectors to go through to figure that one out.
I think it's more the answer would be probably more okay. There is a product, a specific one from a specific vertical, and then later question, is design sprint suitable for my product? It's the other way around, I would say. And usually it's more how do I adapt a design sprint for my use case? So every single design sprint is somehow special usually. Yeah, I was talking about the testing with children, for example. Yeah, or there's a hardware use case, and someone said about the Lego model, right? Every single one. Or we did language, like language teacher mobile app with AI avatar of the teacher. So there's always something specific.
Cool. So yeah, it's more about thinking about the principles of a design sprint, and does that apply to what you're trying to achieve, and will that help you get that result? So Swapan has a question. If we don't have customers lined up yet for their concept, can they still do a design sprint?
Yeah, absolutely. It's more, you don't have to have customers lined up. It's more who is your customer. So have a clear idea who is the customer, because you need to find at least 5 people to test it with, right? And the end user doesn't have to be that's the difference between user, paying user, and customer, basically, right? So user is basically almost everyone, right? But you are targeting someone with your product. So you need to make sure the user you're gonna test it with is from that target group. And that's the only, but it can be member of your family. It can be, I wouldn't recommend member of your team because they will be biased. But
All the
anyone
members
from
of
the
family
street as well.
potentially. It's called the first round of funding is a friends and family round for the because they love you and they want to support you and they'll give you some
Absolutely.
money even when no one else has any faith. But that also makes them quite challenging people to test things on because they'll also tell you you're great, it's awesome.
Yeah,
It's
and it's happening.
and you need that harsh truth sometimes, don't you?
Yeah.
Like the kids give you that harsh truth. So yeah, I guess it's being selective on who you bring into those five people to test it on. So they need to be in your target group, but also sort of distant enough from you that they're not going to feel like if it's your mate, they're going to want to tell you what you want to hear, right? Rather than what you need to hear. So
Absolutely, and that's a usual use case for founders. If they build something like a prototype and they show it to the family, they show it to the mates. Well, they then say, "I've got this massive positive feedback," and everyone's saying, "Yeah, go ahead, do that," right? But you need a critique.
yeah. So yes, find so I guess in direct answer to Swapham's questions, he doesn't need a customers lined up, but he would need to, before executing the design sprint, find sort of at least five people who are the right target audience to test this on. And that's a great way to go and build a wait list for the product and start getting some. If you can pitch the vision, pitch the idea and say we're going to build this in a design sprint, we're looking for some people to test it on, and you can get 5, 10, 15, 20 people say, yes, I'd like to do this. Not only is it useful to you as a business, but when it comes to investment, that's some great traction you can start talking to investors about and say, look, we just pitched this to a handful of people and we had 20 people off the bat say, I want to be part of the test group. There's clearly demand for what we're looking to build here. So,
And if I may, James, Dave, I see your hand as well. I hope we're gonna give you space very soon. But wanted to add one thing. The number of users we usually test it with, it's not something we made up. There are more clever people regarding this, and they say that it's around 5 to 7 people, and after that, usually the feedback you collect is gonna repeat itself. So it doesn't really make sense to do same version of your app testing of that same version with tons of people, 20 or 50 or 100, because you're gonna get the same groups, and the biggest value you're gonna receive from 5 to 7 people, really.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So I think most people would think it'd be more than that to really get a valid data set. But I guess we're talking about not market research as to how many people want to buy your product. It's how we're using it, and everyone's going to use it in the way it's designed, right? Through the UX that you've planned through the design sprint. So it should become quite clear where the thing breaks down, right? Quite quickly. Yeah. Brilliant. So yeah, Dave, let's come to you and have our final question and before we close.
Great. Thanks, James. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing your insights, Jan. Really interesting. Just a quick question. Have you ever done in-person and online participation for the design sprints? Does it work, or do you just stick with one or the other?
You can definitely do the mix, but as I said before, it can be challenging for the people online. It can be challenging for them that they would not feel part of the group really in the game, right? So it's a tricky one. I would recommend doing one or the other, so everyone is like at the same level, if I say that way, right? Because if you start mixing that, and my personal one as well, if we have a meeting and I'm online and the rest of the team is offline in person, that I just don't feel being in the room with them. It's not really working super well.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Jan. Great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Brilliant. Well, look, thank you, Jan, for being with us today. Really, really great insights shared. And I think everyone's walked away with a lot of insights that they can apply to their business and their development. So thank you ever so much. We'll share providing we have Jan's permission, we'll share the recording on YouTube and socials. He's nodding. So yeah, we'll be doing that. So if you want to catch up on any of the slides and any of the content, keep an eye out on the Robot Mascot YouTube channel and socials for those recordings. But yeah, Jan, thank you ever so much for joining us. Yeah, we look forward to hearing from everyone soon and bringing you another event in about a month's time. I think we'll shortly be telling you about the next event we have coming up, which is super exciting as well. We're looking at lead generation and building waiting lists for your venture. So that'll be a really exciting one. We've got really looking forward to that. So yeah, join us for the next one and see you all soon. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Absolute
guys.
pleasure.
Thank you, Jan. Bye-bye.